Psalm 24.
It can make a real difference in your life today if you'll just remember Psalm 24 and verse 1. The earth is the Lord's, and the fullness thereof, the world, and they who dwell therein. You see, when the earth is the Lord's, you can turn it over to Him. When the fullness of the earth belongs to Him, you don't have to worry. The earth is the Lord's and the fullness thereof, the world and they who dwell therein. Psalm 24, verse 1. Now, what kind of a difference will it make? Well, number one, it will remind us that we are stewards and not owners. Whatever you have, you're just a steward. You don't own that. God owns everything. God doesn't just own the cattle on 1,000 hills. He owns the Cadillacs in 1,000 garages. God owns everything. God owns what you own, and if what you own God doesn't want you to have, you better not have it. When you realize that the earth is the Lord's and the fullness thereof, it turns you into a steward, not an owner, and that brings humility, not pride. You can't brag about what you have. God gave it to you. John the Baptist said, "A man can receive nothing except it be given him from heaven." Secondly, it makes you a victor and not a victim. You see, the world doesn't belong to the devil. Now the Lord has given Satan a certain amount of authority and a certain amount of freedom, but I want you to know that the earth is the Lord's, not the devil's. And Jesus is on the throne of heaven. Satan is not on the throne of heaven. And so when you realize this, it makes you a victor and not a victim. And thirdly, it leads you to praising and not complaining. I like the repetition at the end of this psalm. Lift up your heads, O ye gates. Be lifted up, ye everlasting doors. The King of glory shall come in. He repeats it. Lift up your heads, O ye gates. Even lift them up, ye everlasting doors, and the King of glory shall come in. Nothing will lift up your head like realizing that God is in control. He's the King, and He's the King of glory. And wherever He rules, there will be grace and glory. And if you want that kind of blessing, just remember the earth is the Lord's and the fullness thereof. It doesn't belong to you, it belongs to Him, and He is in control.